Hey, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Singles Connect Community Podcast. It's another beautiful week, and we are so excited to be back here with you. And of course, it's the three of us here today, and it's so great. We have a great topic for you guys. But before we dive into our today's topic, if you are new to our platform, new to our programming, new to our content, welcome. We're so excited that you're here today, but we don't want you to just come and pass on by. We want you to make a commitment to joining us every week, listening to amazing content about relationship and so many other things that we talk about building wholesome relationships within our community. So make sure you hit the subscribe button, turn your notifications on. But before you leave today, give us a like if you love this content and do plan to share. So today we are back, guys, and it's another heated topic building value in a relationship, developing value, growing, there's a lot that's been said on becoming a high valued man or high valued woman. So, what does that really mean? I think we're going to touch on that today as we talk about building value in relationships and several other areas that hopefully my wonderful co host will be able to bring some energy and some fire to this topic. Welcome, guys. How are you today, Stacy? Akan, how are you?
Fine, thank you, Dr. OJ. Welcome to another week of the Singles Connect podcast. It's good to see you guys. Everybody looks good.
Yeah, I'm doing well. It's good to see you, ladies. It's always a good thing to be back here. To have these great conversations that we always have. So yeah, I'm ready to go.
Awesome, awesome. So I think I would kind of let Akan open us up because apparently I think I might be assuming, but right now I think Akan is the only one within the three of us that is in a relationship right now. So he'll be
Yeah.
able to share with good. So I want you to kind of lead the conversation today, sharing about how have you worked on, building real-time value with your partner and what are you guys doing as a man? And maybe for her on her end, what have you noticed that has made her appear to you as a valuable person in your relationship?
Huh. So I'll just cut to the chase. So I think basically before you even get into a relationship, I think especially when you're in waiting, you need to really understand what you know the idea that when you get into a relationship you have to be able to increase your value. And before I get to the between me and her and a man and a woman, it's just as value on its own. Value is just something that can never be ignored. In any form. Once you're able to add value, you either get promoted, people want you, people look for you. You are a necessary, commodity. People want you. So when it comes to relationships, the reason why I feel like this conversation is so important is that we we as humans have been known to put in a lot of work into other things, uh, just to increase our value when we are doing other things. Maybe it's work, or just trying to get something, maybe material things. But when it comes to relationship, we sort of like make that free flow and just think is okay because we are interacting with another human. And so that's one of the reasons why this topic is like so important. So for me, it's I think it's the idea of when meeting your partner, letting them know first of all your expectations of them and what you're bringing to the table as a person, what you stand for. They're eventually going to be able to observe and notice who you are as a person, regardless of what you tell them. But it's about letting them understand that the relationship where you're going into is a relationship of growth. You have to grow, and you cannot grow without having value. A plant is not going to grow if you don't put water there, if you don't give it sunlight, if you don't give it some manure or something. So you have, so growth requires value. And I think another thing people, for me, like in my experience, what people don't understand is that when you start dating someone, uh you're dating that person in the capacity that they are in. But then as you grow through the relationship, they become different people in different seasons. And this is not even the major seasons that I'm talking about, in the fact that when you meet your girlfriend or when you meet your man, you know, you, I like to talk on the man's perspective. You're meeting a young woman in her career, in her power and everything. But when she becomes, say you get married, now you're no longer dating uh your girlfriend or your babe. You're dating you're with your wife. The wife is a different person. She's still the other person, but she's also entering a different phase of her lives. Then when she becomes a mother, you're now introduced to a different person who is the mother. You have to learn how to be with that person. It's not the same. It's not all of the same rules that are going to be. You have to, learn. And I think this is the area where people struggle because people also don't prepare for that. And I think the key word here in like today's conversation is to understand that value is required based on meeting people as they grow in the relationship. And so, what are those things that you can do to make sure that, how are you preparing yourself? How are you working on yourself daily to make sure that you can be valuable in the relationship? How are you keeping yourself accountable? So, I'm just going to say that as an introduction. And as we go forward, we can talk more about it.
You're muted, Dr. OJ. You're talking, but we can't hear you.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Yeah,
there
thank
you
you
go.
so much. Yeah, apologies. Thank you, Akan, for that wonderful feedback. I'm really, really excited about this topic because it's something that we all kind of struggle with when it comes to balancing our expectations with people that we meet, we're hoping to plan a future with. So, what does it really mean, as singles entering a relationship? How do we really begin to define it for ourselves first before we even begin to set the expectations with the other person? Stacy, what are your thoughts on that? How do we define building value in a relationship with ourselves first?
Okay, so for me, when I think about our topic, which is increase in value in a relationship, is I think you first have to figure out what value do you hold for yourself. I believe I can touch a little bit on that, but I think it has to first start with yourself. And then once you figure out the value and your worth, then you're able to set those healthy boundaries, like some of the things we talked about last week, on last week's topic about healthy boundaries. So, or I'm not sure if that was last topic, but either way, we discuss healthy boundaries at some point. So because when you figure out your value, your self worth, um, for the lack of argument, I hate this term, but I'm just going to say it for the sake of argument in the culture. What you bring to the table, then you can decide what it is that you have to offer, what your worth is, what you hold, and then you can then determine what are your non-negotiables, what are the healthy boundaries you want to set, what expectation you have for yourself before you can even have expectation of another human being. Because once you get into the relationship with someone, to me, whatever standard or lifestyle that you were living prior to that person coming into your life, you then can say to this person, and even if you guys don't necessarily have the same lifestyle, because I believe people can influence each other, you can inspire each other, you can motivate each other, especially in healthy relationships. But lifestyle too, though, is important, because if you guys are like far off on the spectrum of things, you don't align, you don't want the same things, then if you didn't know what value you had prior to getting in that relationship, may lose yourself, or you may compromise in ways that it's not healthy for you, and then next thing you know, you end up resenting and having these combative conversations and arguments, because now there's resentment and tension buildup. So I believe you first have to start with yourself, knowing your worth, your value, and what value you have and what value you bring to another human being's life. Ask yourself the hard question: are you an asset or you're a liability? Because you fall in one category or the other, whether we like it or not, whether it's certain harsh or not, is just reality. Some people are just liability and baggage, while other people are genuinely asset to other people. And they're not constantly dragging people down. They're not negative and woe is me all the time. So you kind of have to examine your life and figure out what category you fall in. And if there's work that needs to be done, I encourage you to do the work before somebody else show up, and you then become a project or want somebody to come and save you. So
Yeah.
that's my take for now, and I'll let Dr. OJ say her piece.
No, that's completely true. I love the fact that we're kind of taking it from the ground up, like self accountability, self awareness. Preparing yourself for that value contribution that you have to make. Because I think a lot of people misunderstand what it means when we get into relationships. Like I know that most people, and I'm going to kind of go in on my gender, my female gender, you know, thinking that of course the Bible says a man that finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor. Yes, we know what the Bible says, but I think that's been misconstrued to mean that okay, well, I'm just here as a prize to be won. I don't have to do anything. So this next question is for either of you, right? Do you guys think that people focus more? I know that's funny. I mean, that's why I said my gender. Do you think people focus more on what they want in a partner than what they're prepared to offer? Because most females, ironically, do not understand that you're going into a relationship to serve as much as you expect to be served. So we go into this relationship with an entitlement mentality that yes, after all, I'm the woman. Especially in some cases, I've heard even women that claim, oh well, I gave him children, like okay, so he owes me something. And that means that the only thing I get to contribute to this ecosystem is more mouths to feed, more lives to take care of. And this man has to be fully responsible for all of the above without him consenting to that arrangement. I know there's men that consent to that and they fully go into that arrangement and they want it that way. But in 2025, it's very unrealistic. So, what do you think people are thinking when they go in? Like, of course, do you think people go in with more of what they can get or more without thinking of what they have to really offer in relationships? And anyone can feel free to kind of take the question and both of you chime in on that, please.
Um, Absolutely. We live in a culture and a society where it's more about what you can do for me than what we can do for each other. So yes, you have a survival mentality. You have a you know bleed you to death mentality. Or I I laugh initially when you talk about um, I'm the prize. Another cliche saying that I hate that completely drive me up the wall, but that's just me, and it sends up my blood pressure and as send off a lot of triggers in my head. Because personally, I'm not saying women are not the prize. Don't get me wrong, people. Because I know the extra feminist and everybody will try to stone me, but I personally believe that well, for me, let me just speak for myself. Anybody that I'm choosing, I think we both are the prize, because I consider myself to be valuable and I consider myself to be prized a prize. So if I am going to choose a man, I am not going to choose somebody that is not valuable or somebody that is not a prize himself. So when we come together, to me, all we're doing is just making magic work. That's the way I see it. So for me to be in a relationship on my soapbox thinking that I am any more valuable than this person, it's not something that I personally subscribe to. Because if I'm saying that, that means you didn't pick anybody of value if you think you're the only person that is valuable or the only person that has something to give. And if that's the case, why not just be by yourself? What do you need the other person for? So I don't understand that mindset. And yes, Dr. OJ, you're absolutely correct. Most people go into things thinking about the benefit that that person has to offer them, not what benefit they have to offer anyone else. Because currently, right now, that's what our culture is dictating. That's what is being sold. That's what is being pushed. That's what you see more prevalent of. People are even targeted for stuff like that. You see them amongst athletes. A lot of women are not genuinely interested in them. Whether you want to call them groupies or whatever the name is for them. They have children with them strategically just so that they can have a paycheck for 18 years. The footballers, basketball players, rappers. So that's just the culture. It's disheartening and it's unfortunate, because I think we can do better as a people, and we can think of each other much better than just a paycheck. And the demands that a lot of women have, I want a six pack, I want a six figure, I want A1 credit, I want six footers. And by the way, people, just so you know, the average height for a man, and this is facts, you can look it up, this is not me making this up, it's nine, it's 5'8", I'm sorry, 5'9" and up. So all the six footers that y'all are looking for, they're an exception to the rule. There's a small percentage of them, just so you are aware. And y'all want all of these things, and you want gym bodies and whatnot, and it's only in the past what 5-10 years you see women are into skincare, working out, especially women of color that are into all of these things. But we have all of these demands and things that we don't expectation, we don't live for ourselves and can't afford to. You want five-star restaurants, you want world-class vacations that you have never taken yourself on. You have never taken yourself to a five-star restaurant, probably can't afford to. You have never bought yourself a luxury bag, but you want somebody to give you all of these things. My personal thing is, whatever life I'm going to create for myself, whether it's luxury vacation, bags, whatever you want to call it, I create that life for myself. So when you show up, you already see the life that I've curated for myself. You see the lifestyle I have and how I want to live. So when you come in as an asset, and you come in knowing that, okay, knowing that women are naturally expensive. Just pick one that you can afford. If you show up and realize that maybe I can't afford this, by all means, I'm just saying, just pick the category that you fall in. But try to create some of these things that you want from people for yourself. So you're not living in this delusional world of expecting people to just shed out their resources to you, and you have done nothing for yourself. That's all. I'm gonna stop talking now. I think I've talked enough.
No, it's okay. It's okay, Stacy. So I can. What about you? What are your thoughts on this? As a partner, you come in thinking, okay, I have, well, basically just thinking about what they're going to get from the relationship. I mean, as humans, let's be fair, as humans, biologically, genetically, humanly, we are just made to be selfish. We think of ourselves first. But of course, as a person grows and wants to commingle and intertwine their lives with another person, that is when you really begin to look outside of that to see if you're really prepared to give up some of your selfish space and desires to accommodate the other person. So, what has been your experience as a guy? And how can we kind of switch this mindset to help people understand that your desire to be with someone is not the superficial stuff is there, but it's not a lot. It's not there for that much. Once you get into the real, game of things, how can we switch our mindset to understand that you're going in there to actually serve and give something to someone, and hopefully you get something back, not guaranteed. I don't know. I don't want to say not guaranteed, but at least just kind of manage the expectations that you're setting for yourself doing that.
Yeah, I think people don't really go into relationships um giving deep thought to what it's supposed to look like or what they really expect, and seeing how real the reality, seeing how possible the reality that they want can be created. I don't think people give a deep thought to it. I think that back in the days, maybe in the 80s or even way back, the goal for relationship was just really based on creating a family, and like starting a family and making sure that that family's generation lives to the next one, and really raising kids, and everyone around helps you raise that family. But I think um, if you want to see the reflection of what we are very concerned about today, all you need to do is go to social media, and everyone is trying to show you how they're losing weight. Everyone is trying to show you how they are, um, you know, either how they're curvy or how they got their stuff done or how they. And it's like, I don't know that I've scrolled through a lot of like. I think I'm seeing relationship posts, yes, about how a man should treat a woman and what women's value was, but I'm not really seeing posts about raising a family. I'm not seeing people doing any posts about raising families and stuff. And so I think that, frankly, of course, people go into relationship these days really looking at what the relationship can do for them. The focus is on them, like, oh, okay, how is this going to take care of me? I'm going to feel good. I'm going to feel that. And it's important to put yourself first. You should always put yourself first before anybody. But you have to understand that for a relationship to work, it takes two people. And I think part of increasing value in a relationship actually comes from this part of possibly being too selfish to understand that you need to actually observe the other person, see what they need, anticipate their needs, see how you can fill in for those needs, and also help them to become better person. Because the truth about it is, when you're coming together, it can only be two things, which is similar to what Stacey said. You can either be adding or you can be taking away. And so you need to look at the ways in which, like, how am I going to add to this person's life while I'm still enjoying it? Because before you even went to be with this person, you saw that they could actually give you something that you need, whether it was peace of mind, whether it was love, whatever it was, anything you needed, you knew they needed it. So now, how do you help this person? So I think people don't really give that a lot of thought. And even if they know that they might have to do that, they don't sit down to see what that means. What does it mean for me to date this guy who is so height, likes his food prepared a certain way, is allergic to this type of thing, doesn't like, let's even, before we even get to that point, do our value systems and our morals align, or are they similar? Because I feel like a lot of times when people move into a relationship and together, then they start to like see all these things. It's okay to see, you can't see someone like totally before you get in the relationship, but you should know certain things about them that allows us to say, hey, listen, we can collaborate, we can do this. And so I think in the beginning phase, that whole butterflies, that whole sweet phase and everything can sort of like make things look very coated, and you can go through it because it's nice, you're meeting this person, it's exciting, it's awesome. But when all of that fades away, now you have the pressures that come in, because the pressures of life is going to come in. And the character, like the work you've done, or the work that you've not done, is going to show when the pressure comes. Because they say, when pressure comes, it starts to affect the center, and the center cannot hold, and that's when it falls. And so I think just being prepared and understanding what it means for you as a person to like go into a relationship. What am I going in there to do? How am I going to make this better? I think it helps a lot. So
Yeah, that's
So,
wonderful. Yeah, Stacy, go on.
no, go ahead, Dr. J. Go ahead, finish your
No,
thought.
I just wanted to say, no, no, I wasn't going to say anything. I just wanted to move on to another question. But if you have something more to say before we
Okay.
move on to our next, yeah.
No, I was just going to ask because Akan mentioned, I guess, in the first or the earlier stage, because sometimes people say it's too early to ask certain questions, which I don't necessarily subscribe to that, because I think if you're asking the right person the right questions, then that person won't be afraid, and it shouldn't scare that person off, unless they have ulterior motives or they're just here for the wrong reason. So when you talk about like knowing, making sure that you guys have mutual, at least mutual values before you decide, okay, I'm going to even continue to move forward. For Can you give an example, like a practical example of of maybe what that looked like, or some of those questions? Because maybe for somebody that is listening that has no clue, that has never really dated, or have no idea like what we're talking about. So when you say in the initial part, before you even decide that, is this person, do we have the same lifestyle, value system, stuff like that, before I even decide if I have any value to add to this person, or do I have the capacity to be in a relationship with such a person, as you talk about, before you even get to this person have this type of allergy, this person likes to be catered to in this manner. Do you have the patience? Do you have the tolerance? Do you have the empathy that this needs, the consideration, the love, the thought, all of the, before you even start figuring that out? I think there is that first step of, do we align? Do I even want to make the effort to be with this person, to even start doing these things?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's you have to ask the questions. I mean, I'm talking about I ask questions as questions, even as as basic or as practical as, listen, do you, you know what is your, because if you're probably like someone maybe someone you met who was there, like, are you do you want to take girls? Are you going to be taking solo trips or girls trips? When we're married, and everything just like that, or with people who are single or people like you need to see where they're coming from, or what is your thought on what is your perspective on having male friends or keeping female friends in a relationship. And that's really gone on before, because I've been in a situation where questions like that have been asked, and it's like it's really nice to keep, and then you bring up the fact that okay, fine, okay, I have like 6 7 female friends and I'm just going to be talking to them while we're in a relationship, and they're like, oh, no, 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 that's not nice. Like, why are you going to be but that's different from having friends who's family. So like the most practical questions have to be asked, because somebody might actually see some of those things that you see as normal as not normal, right?
Hmm.
And so what is your perspective on communication when we are not around each other? Do I need to always video call you every time so you know that I'm there, or do I need to? Are you just the kind of person that is like, oh, don't worry, do whatever you want, and things like that? I think sometimes people skip things like that, and so it sort of lets you know, even with Christianity, or even with a religion, in as much as we may both be Christians, what is your depth and level of Christianity? How much do you think we should sacrifice, or how much do you think we should go deep? How do we do Christianity with the kids? I have spoken to a Christian before, who said, she, even though she's Christian and I was Christian, but the kids are allowed to have to do whatever religion that they like, and that didn't sit well with me. Like, oh, whatever religion they choose is fine. I want them to go out and explore different religions, and those are, for me, those are my kids, and I'm raising them in the way that I want them to grow. And I was like, yeah, my kids have to be raised in the in the church and by God. And so by so doing, I have to also make sure that I'm also very active in the church space and around God, and for them to actually see, because kids learn by your example. And so things like that are like examples of like values that people don't really talk about, but you need to know some of these things so you know how to move.
Wow,
Thank you,
that's
Akan.
very, very
That's the yes, that's the practicality I was thinking of, because when I was looking this topic up, one of the key thing that they mentioned about increasing value is about communication and act and effort, from two people. And it also talked about having empathy too, and nurturing each other. Like, those are some of the things that we don't a lot. I don't say we, because I know our mindset here is a little bit different, but our society and our culture doesn't oftentimes bring up or focus on or even think is relevant or important. Go ahead, Dr. OJ.
Absolutely. Thank you guys. Very, very detailed. I love the breakdown of value system. So in today's culture of instant gratifications, I want it now, 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 now. You're a billionaire today or no deal. How can singles cultivate long-term, value systems where they know that this is over long term, or even separate when you're meeting people? How do you begin to separate someone who has more of a long-term vision value system as opposed to someone who is short term, and how can you sift through the noise, because now everybody wants what they want it now or never? So what would you say about that when it comes to building valuable relationships?
I would say first, the consistency. That's what's going to tell you whether or not this person is in it for the long haul. Again, I said, if you guys actually do some research on increasing value, that's one of the things they talk about. Focus on a consistent effort, open communication, prioritizing growth and happiness. So if those key elements are missing, and as I said, that consistent effort is a big key. If that is not there, then you know you're dealing with somebody that is not in it. They're just here for whatever agenda they have, or maybe this is a short time fling, or they were just able just to here to test the waters to see how far they're willing to go. Because a wise person once told me that men like to test women. So yeah, and vice versa too. I think we both like to test each other in different ways. So that consistent effort, I think, is going to be your key indicator as a single person dating, to know whether or not this person is actually serious. And I'm not talking about, I can't talk about the low effort and the people that are addicted to attention. Yes, those are what I'm talking about. Just and it has to be mutual. It can't be just one person making all the constant effort to communicate, to reach out, to constantly connect, and one person is just there thinking, oh, I am the prize, so I have no work to do, and I don't have to do anything except just show up for my looks. No, I don't believe in that.
Yeah, for me, I think with the most common challenge that I have seen in relationships. So let's say both people are actually valuable people. Let's say both people are ready to work, or both people try to put some effort. But I think the most challenging thing that I've seen is the ability to receive feedback from your partner. The humility to actually listen, observe, and receive feedback, take that feedback and create initiative and give your partner back energy or results that actually better both your lives. I think that's one of the toughest things for people, because people who are even ready to be in relationships, they're just ready to be like, okay, I can do this, but I'm myself. I want to be myself. I'm myself. This is who I am. This is what I am. So that ability to take feedback, use it to adapt, create initiative, and give the person back. In other words, I'm not giving you the love that I think you deserve. I'm giving you the love that you deserve, that you need, that's actually going to better you. And I think we are living in the world where a lot of people want to give you what they think you deserve or what it is. But are you looking at the person in front of you? Are you listening to them when they're talking to you to take what they're telling you? Because you have to understand, you all have already come together. The only way you can know how to be better is by receiving from them, right? Even when it's hard, even when it's tough, and then saying, okay, this is what this person's like. Take that initiative, create something in the relationship, through gifts, through service, through even if sometimes it might just be through maybe knowing to listen more to this person, or looking for a way to calm their anxiety, or just being, and I think that's like the most powerful thing. And I think that's the place where a lot of people find it challenging to act. I think it's needed. Like you have to be able to do that, and people also shut off that part when they feel like, there's this thing about human beings where you feel like maybe you didn't catch that on time, or you didn't suggest something, and you just don't want to feel like you're being judged. You want to defend yourself. It's okay to calm down, still listen, understand the person, and then give feedback back. So that's one of the things that I would say, for like increasing your value in a relationship is very important, and just being creative in the relationship and just being there for your partner.
No, you're absolutely right, I can, and of course, Stacy as well. One thing that I made a decision one time, I was talking to this person, and I kind of noticed that invariably, when it came to some of the challenges I was having, they had no intention of being part of that process, right? Expecting me to, I mean, not expectation, but it's like just like, oh, that's what's going on, like you go sort that out, that kind of thing, not even making any indication to say, okay, how can I make this better? How can I ease the situation? No one expects you to come in as a savior. But if my thought is, if you're interacting with this person and at the time you're interacting with them, there are certain things that are going on, what really proves that you have the good long-term vision for that person is how you are able to, I guess, carry yourself in that situation, at least make yourself a part of it. Someone will argue with me and say, well, this person is not with you, they don't really owe you anything, right? However, they have shown the intention, they have indicated that they have the intention of being in a relationship with you. So do you have to wait to be in that relationship before you now kind of start sort of being helpful or being mindful, being thoughtful? Or do you just wait and be like, okay, well, until we get to this bridge, we're going to cross it. And since we haven't gotten to the bridge to cross it, I'm just going to be standoffish and act like I don't know what to do in this situation for you. Does that make sense?
It does. I think both Dr. OJ and what you both have described is what they call cultivating empathy and understanding in the relationship for the partner or the person you're courting, or the person that you're potentially showing an interest in, because you're trying to see things from your partner's point of view even when you disagree. You're practicing that empathy, acknowledging their emotion, validating their feelings, stuff like that, and you are showing up for that person. Let's say you cannot come in 100%, but if you come in with that thought process of care, consideration for that person, and you can say, okay, as you said, how can I help? Or what can I take off your plate? Or you can say, well, I don't have the capacity to do all of this, but I can do this much. This is what I can do for right now. And my goal is to be able to do more, but currently this is what I can do. And give that person the opportunities to say yes or no, because some women may also say, no, I feel it's too early for you to. I appreciate you, and I thank you and for considering me and for even asking, but right now I think it's too soon for to ask you to do any to step in for me certain ways, but I really appreciate you thinking about me and caring enough to even consider it, ask considering me to ask. So, but give that person an opportunity to say yes or no. At least let the person know that you actually care. And again, have to me that definitely shows that's a criteria that this person has some long term
Mm-hmm.
goal in mind where you're concerned. So you were we were asking about example, or I think Dr. OJ mentioned example to somebody that may be dating. Here is another practical scenario of life is happening to while you are considering dating, courting, whatever your situation is,
Mm-hmm.
someone. These are sometimes some of the maybe life happening moments. it and it could be as little as, I have a flat tire, I'm on the side of the road. If I call you, do you just tell me to call AAA and go back to sleep? Or do you say, okay, I'm on my way? Or I'm sorry, babe, I don't know how to change a flat tire, but I have AAA. Let me send you roadside assistance while I'm on the way to meet you there, because I don't know who's going to be showing up randomly in the middle of the night. Or,
Boom.
let me call one of my boys to come help me because I don't know how, but I'm coming. Something. I'm just saying something. You know, it could be as simple as that. That was just an example. It could be something else. I don't know. I'm just throwing little life things that happen to us in life.
That's a really good example, Stacy, honestly, because life happens to everyone, and you never know what season you're going
Hmm.
to come in contact with the person that you supposedly want to be with. And just because life is happening to them in that moment does not disqualify them from being the ideal, high valued person. Because
Yes.
sometimes women will meet a man in a season when, oh, wow, he's really trying to get things together. He's a very, very, he's genuinely able to achieve those goals, but he's gradually on his way there. And maybe when you meet him is when life is happening and things are a bit rocky. And generally, social media culture, that person could easily be disqualified or discarded as, no, I don't think you have much to offer. But then it might just be in that season, you might have the upper hand to help boost whatever is going on to get him on his way. And then if and you guys build a very happy future, and everyone is high value. For example, maybe you have some connections that could help whatever journey he's on right now. And then the time he meets you is when those connections that you have could come into play to help him. That's something that we should all consider, that of course be discerning, because sometimes I know that the world is a very crazy place. People have been
Hmm.
duped and tricked and deceived, with this same notion, with someone who's coming in with the best intentions. But that's just up to us discerning and being able to read through the lines and hopefully have some type of mirror to be able to make the best decision. So let's talk about red flags when it comes to being a valuable person. What are some red flags that we can pinpoint? I know that when we talk about red flags, everybody can see them, but everybody can also miss them. So, what are some red flags that will let you know that this person is a high valued person who is focused on contributing as opposed to just coming into your life to receive, take, grab, 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 that kind of thing?
So are we talking about the red flags or the green flags?
Let's talk about the
Because you
red flag.
you said
No, the red
the
flags,
ones
the red
that can
flags.
add.
Yeah. The red flags. So basically, just focusing on the red flags right now for people who are looking to
Okay.
come in.
Okay. So
Yes.
the ones that are looking just to take
Yeah,
just to come
I
in
said
and
not to
to take,
contribute,
not
but
to
yeah,
add. Okay,
yes, not to
all
add.
right.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, honestly, whenever we're having this value conversation and increasing value, you can't have this conversation without looking at who the person is as a person, because the value you can offer to someone is closely tied to the person's habits and who they are as a person. So I would say the red flag, you know, is on both parts, ignoring patterns, habits that are you're seeing clearly happen, and thinking that it's going to be different at some point when you guys grow, or thinking that it's probably just happening because it's the circumstance, especially when it happens a lot. And like I say, people say, oh no, don't do things to your husband, or don't do things to your wife. Well, before you become a husband, or before you become a wife, you have to show certain qualities that qualify you as a husband or a wife. So I think the red flag would be, ignoring that, especially when there are other material things that seem tangible, that sort of dampen your dampen your ability, like dampen your judgment. So for example, the person has a bad character, has a bad habit, or is passive, but because they're beautiful and you're attracted to them, and you ignore this thing that they're doing in terms of maybe their how they handle conflict, or how they spend money, how they work with money, or their idea on just life, or their value system, or just even their how empathetic they are. But you're ignoring this kind of red flags because they're beautiful, it's nice, you all look good together, you know maybe they feel like maybe they make money or whatever, but these other deep qualities are there. So I think the red flag would be ignoring those habits of that person, that clearly show you, that the patterns clearly show you that this is who this person is going to be, as you move forward.
Absolutely.
Interesting and
One of
thought
the
away.
red
I like
flags.
it.
Yes.
So so with the red flags, I have to say, and I guess echo with what Akan had to say about watching patterns and behavior. And for me, one of the telltale sign is, and it goes for either, for me, it's I always watch, and even as a woman, I'm gonna say this. I always watch and look out for the women that are always trying to figure out how a way to spend a man's money. It, to me, it's, and I'm saying this because I have nephews and I have brothers and I have cousins. It, if all of our effort is wrapped around figuring how a way to spend your money and never
Hmm.
have anything to offer, whether it is, say you are guys are courting or dating for weeks now or months now, and she's never offered to pay for one meal or pay for, or even initiate one date, but it's always on your dime and it's the most expensive places and all of these things, to me that's a complete red flag. Because one thing it shows me is that this person is not really, may not really be into you, just what you have to offer. And in terms of financial benefits is what that is. And it also doesn't it tells me that a person is financial irresponsible. Because if if you're building a life with someone and you spend all your time doing all of these things, these extravagant things. Um, my mom liked to say, "How you get them is how you have to keep them." Nobody to me can sustain. Those are not sustainable lifestyle. You cannot possibly sustain, especially when you're in a certain income brackets. And some more facts here, Americans or people that lives in this country, the people that are making 50,000 and above, the mathematical household is small. All of these Instagram posts of people fabricating and making six figure, 200 some thousand, 300 some thousand, it's a lie. It's not real. I promise you. It's not real. And even if they're entrepreneur, self-employed, whatever it is, when you take away all the taxes and all of that, they're not bringing home that kind of money. And if they have employees, they're worse not bringing home that kind of money. So sustaining some of these lifestyle that they're portraying, it's not practical, it's not real. So when I see certain women that gravitate towards certain habits those are red flag. When I see men too that gravitate towards certain lifestyle, when and these are the men that the only thing they know how to communicate is try to buy you. If you're trying to talk to about something that is bothering you, something that is concerning to you, and the only thing you know how to do is say, "Oh, let's go out to eat." "Oh, I'm you want to go shopping," or let me buy you a bag or something like that just to shut you up. Those are to me are also red flags, because money can't solve all the problems. Money is not going to take care of your heart. Money certainly is not going to take care of you spiritually, emotionally, and physical, and all of that good stuff. It may feel good for the moment, but it's not going to be what's going to solve the problem long term. And you guys are just going to be living in a house, maybe a beautiful house full of luxury item, but miserable, and probably end up having an affair with the maid and the pool boy. I don't know.
Oh yeah. For me, I think one of the red flags is yeah, I think Stacy touched on that, is a person's generosity. And generosity not just in giving material things, but generosity with your kindness, generosity with your emotions, just being able to show vulnerability. There's some red flags. I mean, I see that when a person is holding, likes, when someone is more into holding on to what they have, their everything, than being able to freely share in a certain way. I just, even with forgiveness, letting things go, how quickly are you able to get over situations and issues and just move on a very balanced space? For me, those are red flags, and I mean, I can't deal with that. So yeah. So as we round up our conversation today, one of the areas I want us to touch on is becoming a high valued partner. Bringing value into relationship, increasing and building this value, comes from somewhere. But when someone is still dealing with age old trauma they haven't healed, how does that play a role in how much value they can bring to the relationship? And how would you propose, each of you, to work with such a person? I mean, maybe you see the potential in them as a good partner, but they still haven't healed completely from some past trauma. How can you suggest that a person works with this person to ensure that they are able to reach their maximum potential as being a valuable partner in a relationship?
Um, well, I think that healthy relationship can also heal each other if it's done properly. Because you can meet someone maybe not at the right moment or opportunity in their life, because they're still scarred. I don't want to use the word damage, but maybe scarred. They're still recovering from something. They're still recovering or healing from heartbreak, disappointment, rejection, abandonment, setbacks. And you have the right person that comes along that can actually shows them the value in who they are, and build their self-worth and their self-esteem, and build that person back up. I have seen it done, um, close up and also from a distance, from observing some even faith-based couple relationships, successful couples too right now. So it can be done if the relationship is done in the right way, and if it's the right person, two people coming together. Because the person that is that are still in that recovery process, that is still healing, also have to be receptive towards receiving that kind of love from someone else. Because you will also reject it thinking you're so badly hurt, or you're so badly broken, or wounded, that you're not worthy of this kind of love, and you cannot receive it. And that the other party has to be, that patient enough person to know that this is my person, and this is the grace that God has given me in order to walk this person through this. Like, this is my task in loving this person back to a healthy path, is what I think.
When it comes to trauma, it's not easy. It's tough. I think people, the whoever's had the trauma needs to be honest with themselves with how deep the level of the trauma has been for them, and first of all, ask themselves, this level that I am right now, is this suitable for a relationship? Because some people say, just go ahead and go in there, whatever happens, happens. Well, that can happen, but that can also be very bad sometimes, because there's a thin line between going into a relationship traumatized, even though the other person is very helpful, very cooperative, very collaborative. You are able to reject that person's love and efforts by literally blaming them for everything that is going on, not knowing that it's actually your trauma that's causing that. So I think being honest with yourself and with the person who's coming to date the other person, you need to have this type of conversation where it's like, hey, listen, if we do see where there's a problem coming up and maybe it's becoming really intense, can we agree that we will have this ability to sit down and see where this is coming from, to understand that this might be something that's coming from this end, and how do we manage it better than, because what I've seen is that that thin line between someone saying, oh, you bring the pain from the trauma of that relationship, and then you now put it on the other person and be like, oh, you're the one that's causing this to me, when you don't know that you are the one who's had the trauma from there. And it's like, but your mind gets so clouded at that time that you're not even able to receive any feedback. You're just blocked on all ends. And so it can really be tough like that with trauma. So the other partner is definitely going to have to be a lot patient. I know that I've wanted to date someone before, and we had conversations for a while. And I was just trying. I said, listen, I really do like you. I know that we're going to date, but I feel like if I date you, I'm going to have to do a lot of work, and I don't want to do that work. I was just honest. I don't want to do that work. I'm just gonna have to work so much, and I just don't know that at this point in my life I want to do that. Maybe another point in my life I could do that, and that was what was it for me. I was honest about it because I had interacted and I already saw the things that were there already. So being honest. So if you're able to do that, you as a partner too, you're gonna have to go through with it because it's going to take a lot of work. And so but in terms of value, what defines that value and what defines um, how much that relationship grows is the willingness, the intentionality to keep working, to keep giving understanding, to be able to step back and say, okay, let's see what's going on, let's solve things together. Because if you keep going at it and it's conflict and it's like this, the both characters have very strong personalities, then there's always going to be conflict and it's just always going to be hard, and you're not going to be able to solve anything. So that's what I would recommend with people who've had trauma and maybe not healed from it and are going into a relationship.
Yeah, amazing, amazing contributions tonight, guys. So, definitely for this last question, both of you, it's okay to walk away if you know it's something you can't deal with. And it's also okay to be willing to work with someone and be able to, stay in that space of grace, be patient with them because you never know. I mean, sometimes God will send you a prospect and sometimes He'll send you a project. So whatever he sends you, it just depends on what he believes. I believe that, honestly. I believe that he'll send you what he believes that you have the capacity to withhold and withstand. But you also have to know yourself. Emotional intelligence means you're self aware and you know what your capacity can handle. Sometimes a woman will say, oh, he has money. And then every other thing you want to ignore it. He's coming with a lot of baggage. He's recently divorced. He's broken. And then, well, you're looking at that one thing that you think is the shiny object. And then you want to go and put your head in there. Like one pastor was saying that why would you want to bring in someone's trash and make it into your own furniture? Even though they say someone's trash is someone else's treasure. I don't know how that works. But she's kind of the opinion that, if someone is coming from a bad relationship, well, not a bad relationship, maybe they're recently divorced and stuff like that, and you don't know the full backstory. And even when you do know the full backstory, you haven't really experienced the reality with that person. You might want to take your time to kind of see if that's something you want to go full on in with. And it's always okay to walk away. Value begets value. That's what I believe, that you don't get out of life what you want, you get out of life who you are. And the same thing in relationships. You might want someone who's going to cater to you, blah, 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 which could eventually happen for the man and the woman. But in order for you to actually get all those things, you also have to be that person who is willing and ready to cater and provide in the ways that you're able to match the value that is being expected. So thank you guys so much. So what are some closing thoughts from you, Stacy, tonight? And of course, I can as well, before we leave our audience with all of this value conversation.
Well, I'm going to say that you first have to start with yourself. You first have to decide that are you valuable? What do you have to offer? What have you done with your own life that makes you valuable, that makes you know that you're an asset and not a liability? So that's where I would say first start with yourself and examine that and be honest with yourself. And instead, and even if it's a tough conversation to even have with yourself, I talk to myself all the time. Figure out the things you need to change, the things you need to work on, and figure out what the expectations that you have for your life and the lifestyle that you want to live. Are you providing those things for yourself? Have you done so? Have you done any of the things you have on your list that you're expecting someone else to do for you? And instead, it could be simple as going out to taking yourself to a nice restaurant to dinner just by yourself, going on a nice vacation, shopping how you want to shop, live in the kind of house you want to live in, even if it's a starter home, it doesn't matter. You do for you what you think you deserve before you can tell somebody, this is what I expect.
True. I love it. Akan the King, what about you,
You're
sir?
muted, Dr. Audrey. Oh, there you go.
Well, yeah, so
No.
value, I just want people to know that value can be a huge determinant for the lifespan of a relationship. And when you have that at the back of your mind, it will really help you. Because I think people really think that, just existing in a relationship and because you've met somebody, that's okay. It's me that she chose, it's her that I chose. No. You can actually, a relationship's lifespan can actually be cut short by a lack of effort to increase value. So please be able to increase value. There's been like Michelle Obama and Barack Obama have had a lot of interviews on the internet like lately, and she was talking about how they've been married for 30 years, but 10 of those years were not great, like, and she's like, I'm going to take those 20 great years and the 10 years that were not great and still love this person, and I'll take it and it's fine. And how the problem with young people these days is that once it gets to that hard part, everybody wants to quit. They don't want to work. But she mentioned some things where Obama would do things and she didn't like them and everything. But like when she turned and looked at him, she saw that he was still intelligent, he was still kind, he was still smart, he was still considerate. He wasn't doing exactly what she wanted to. Those are values. So the values will keep you. It's like even when they're taking people out of work, they're going to look at the people who are performing the most. So even if you do have the ability to give these values, you still have to take action to decide to actually do the things that you're supposed to do to be able to bring them in a relationship. So I think if we keep that at the back of our minds, it's very, it helps us to be able to, move forward and just know that, the lifespan of relationship is likely highly tied to the value that you're giving, because value is also closely tied to respect. The more people respect value, and a lot of times, especially when it comes to men, men want respect. But that's one of the reasons why I actually told Stacey for us to have this conversation. But they don't talk about like how you drop the ball as a man and you still want respect. You're not being valuable.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be valuable in the relationship for it to keep growing. And you can't sleep on that. It has to be consistent. You can't say because I did it 5 years ago. No, who are you now? Are you even more valuable than you were yesterday? So that'll be my closing thought.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. It's been another wonderful conversation tonight, guys. Don't forget, the Singles Connect Community Podcast comes to you every week, and we bring valuable conversation around relationship and wholesomeness. So make sure you subscribe to our podcast. Make sure you turn your notifications on. Drop us a like if you enjoyed this episode, and let us know what are your thoughts on value. What are some ways that you bring value to your own personal relationship, and what are some expectations of value that you could have that we might be able to kind of glean from. Thank you all so much. Until next week, we are so glad that you were here, but we'll look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye, guys. Have a good night.
Bye. Have a good night.
Have a good night, everyone.